I entered the Brooklyn College as a freshly migrant with computer science as my major, but I graduated with filmmaking as my major because of this shift in interest. And I have to be grateful to my parents who did not insist on this migrant life, that you have to make money and have this life of a very stable life of a new American citizen, but allowed me to go in a different direction from that idea of stability and kind of a static, solidify narrative of your life. And in parallel, looking for jobs in film, I ring a bell in Anthology Film Archives door, searching for job, and Anthology Film Archives and the meeting Jonas Mikas opens me another doors into experimental cinema, which just took me as a wave and carried me further. And there was other doors and other encounters which influenced my way of being with the cinema and being in a world and with the cinema and living it through not as a kind of a professional medium, but basically as a way of being, a way of life. And I graduated from Brooklyn College as a student. Our generation was the last one who started with film, from Super 8 to 16, and then we finished with 16 millimeter in 1998. And so we were the last one who was having this cinematic, like this celluloid lineage between formats. And I'm trained as a filmmaker, but I become a filmmaker thanks to video and thanks to the digital revolution which was happening. Although, of course, there are many approaches and many difficulties which this development brings into the moving image theory and moving image practice. But I have to acknowledge that it's video technology which was taking its force and the powers in the end of 90s and developed through the zeros. They really free me in the way how I go in between the formats, or how do I relate to the formats, or how do I think about the accessibility of the technology, of the moving image technology. And one of the films which we have in exhibition, Untitled Number 1, is a film from 2005. It's and looking back at it now, it's my work which kind of is a threshold between the analog and not analog, celluloid and digital, because it's a hybrid film which was shot on Super 8, but it exists only on video. Because I edited on video and all the repetitions which we see, it's done digitally rather than analog. And from that, the idea of hybridity and mixing analog and video and digital and other elements becomes my kind of way of relating to the cinema. And and to thinking of other relations between the materiality which one format brings into the conversation, also sharing it with others or inviting others to with me into the filmmaking, and kind of going in between formats without being stressed about the purity of it. Like hybridity brings the idea of unpure cinema. Because it also deals with the idea who can afford purity, and I'm as a person who's moving between the spaces with the migrant experience and continuous different marginals experience, I can't afford the purity. I have to be unpure in my tactics in order to continue and insist on the cinema I'm doing. The reason I come back to Russia was also through Jonas, who offered me to do a program at the end of 90s of contemporary Russian experimental films. So I went and collected a program of which which called the parallel cinema, and other filmmakers as Vladimir Kobrin and the animation studios of big selection of the programs. Among them, there was a program of Evgeny Yufet, who initiated a movement called necrorealism in Russia. And through this invitation of Jonas and showing the Yufet's films in anthology, we got to know each other and our romance started. And then I moved back to, not to Moscow where I was originally from, but to St. Petersburg, and kind of start to share this life of the late Soviet underground, like a Leningrad underground. And also it's informed me other way of living and being with cinema, and kind of place yourself in relations to the society through our union, let's put this way. And also doing an insisting film, which back then at the beginning of Zeros was questioned by my motherhood experience, because our son was born. And of course, as with other experiences, like this total experience of transformation when you become a parent or you become a mother, my art practice was under the question, right? Because the two totalities had to find a way to coexist, and it was not a peaceful transformation. So by cinema again helped me to negotiate my transforming experiences of being a mother, continuously doing films, and this diary filmmaking, which is a part of my practice and part of my approaches, helped me to go through and find the new language to negotiate these two personal experiences and find a balance in between them. And the personal experiences through these years of doing work in parallel with motherhood also taught me that personal is political, where you started to think that, okay, you can't separate the artistic practice. Like you can't go to the studio, lock your door, and be in your studio because you have screaming child and then other elements which influence your practice. So you learn how to do things in between, you multitasking, to do things quick, to do like insignificant, like take a pleasure from insignificant moments. So this idea of everyday, which is a part of your practice, also becomes not something which you force into your practice, but it kind of grows out of your realities, and you just accept them, you acknowledge them and say, okay, you cannot make a film from A to B in this traditional sense, no? So you'll do it as it goes, as it flows. And with this notion, this is one of my films were made about motherhood, and also this process of inviting child into your filmmaking and kind of talk to your child through filmmaking is also influenced the film, which is in the exhibition Debris of Dreams, which came out from my nightmare. From a nightmare involved my son, and it's coincided with us separating. That my son, after the death of his father, had to go and to stay with his paternal grandparents, and I was going to the program in Vienna at Academy of Fine Arts. And due to my precarious status, I could not have him with me. So this film, kind of based on my nightmare, which I truly dreamt of our separation and of our ruptures of ties. And for me, this was a letter which I wrote to my son, and I made a film to my son, kind of declare my presence for him and with him even we were separated in time. And kind of take a film as a ritual where you can leave traumas or you leave separations, not to leave it for yourself, but kind of export it into the screen and make it shareable with others. So for me, the landscape and being with the nature also teaches me humbleness, that you are a part of the bigger story and you are insignificant in this presence. And this sensation also came from the beginning of the zeros when I started to go to the Siliger. It's a lake between Moscow and St. Petersburg where Yevgeny, my ex-husband, had their house, and we still now, we inherited, we have this house still. And it's a beautiful lake where you just stay and stare. And you understand that you were just a little drop in the history of that lake. And of course, you think about the ecology because things are changing, and you see how the human invasion is destroyed the balance of the elements. And I have another film which I did there. So the landscapes, and looking through the landscape through the camera, is also something which I've been thinking how to transform different emotions or different sensations through these landscapes, and how to transform this feeling of being with the nature. And when it comes to films, and this is what is present in both films, in Debris of Dreams and Only Two Words, that I usually go to the spaces to kind of pull myself together, to regroup myself, and also cry my tears. Basically, you cry into the landscape, or you talk into, because you know that the other entity will listen to you and will not tell you something, but it's more like you can say whatever you want. No, you cry it out. And for both films, the Donau River in Vienna was some like this place where I would go and tells whatever was bothering me. And because also my move to Vienna coincided with the death of Yufet, which marked my experience in the program. In PhD program, it marked my experience of being in a city in Vienna and experience it. And I was caught by surprise that this death of your ex-husband actually transformed the way how you feel the world and how you navigate it. And Donau offered me that calming space, and this is what you see in both films. And then the idea for me to making a film for my son, to speak my nightmare was like, okay, Donau would be my landscape for speaking that through. And for the Only Two Words, it's also coincided with the dissolution of my first queer relations, and here the landscapes and mixing the different landscape offered me to use cinema and approach landscape as a rituality, where you can also perform certain rituals of departure, or to say goodbye, and create a film as a ritual, where you can also, yes, to build new relations, or to say goodbye to one relation and to start the others. So in nature, you can be alone, and you can build this internal conversation where it's quite private. In urban space, as soon as you go out with the camera, you're in a spotlight. You become quite visible for others. So, right, you open yourself to the for encounters, with unexpected encounters. From one hand, also often urban space hide the ghostly presence or some hidden histories which is not available to you at first glance, as well as in nature landscapes. But in urban spaces, it's almost like embedded. That there is always something is take out, rebuild, reconstructed, and etc. So you need a second gaze, or like attune your vision to hear something different behind the walls or streets or rivers. And it's even starting from the untitled number one, feeling yourself as a person with a camera. You understand that as soon as you're entering into these urban spaces, you change the way the things flow and flew. And not only you as a filmmaker trying to capture something unseen, but you also provoke certain encounters with others. And this is what we see in the last film, There Are Still More to Come, which is a part of the exhibition, where me taking a walk with two cameras, trying to capture the city, which been at war for several months, and to see what changes in the city. And deciding not to shoot people, but basically deciding to shoot spaces, it's also brought other conversations or other encounters into the contact. No? So I think that urban space opens up different possibilities of relations, or different possibility of relating, and different forms of relationality which you can build, and which can be different, and you can perform this. You can perform your identities differently in urban space. No, in one case you are a filmmaker, in another one you're a person who gives the directions, in another a person who is negotiating where she can put her camera. In other places you have to just follow the orders. So I think it's just a diverse way how you feel yourself in a space. Our collective was organized in 2015 as a joyful activity, which we decided to do together with several artists, social scientists, activists. It was an experiment how to dissolve ourselves with our particularities as an artist, as a scientist, and to do something collective where you basically deliver yourself to this entity which called Queer Feminist Affinity Art Group Unwanted Organization. No? So how you can deliver yourself full-heartedly and don't demand the recognition as an individual artist, let's say, which is also interesting in putting in conversation of the art market or being an artist in the contemporary world, that if you do something collective, you really have to destroy your personal involvement. And for us, the way collective works, it's out of joy. It's out of really wanting to do something together, really wanting to enter the discussion, to sharing, to argue. Because, right, the collective work is not something done without friction. One thing you work by yourself with your computer in your studio, another thing where you have to negotiate every cut or every decision. It's also a question about trust, about the questioning of power relations, questioning control, and trusting to others, trusting to yourself, respect the trust of others into you. So I think this is where, for all of us, is an experiment in this other collectivity and other way of doing things together. And it started since we organized it in 2015. And the works and exhibition is actually these works of 2016, 2017. But when the COVID came, we also, okay, so how do we maintain our collectivity when we all in different places, and there is borders and there is restrictions. So how do we insist on that collectivity despite of everything? And this also brought us to different techniques and different practices, also to remain to be together through cinema and through exchanging things and through exchanging our fears through the materials, through poems, through nightmares, through diaries, through little observations, and again create together different cinematic experiences which we can then share with others.